confirmed number of new coronavirus cases reported in Los Angeles County over the last 24 hours is 852, with 39 additional deaths. Here in Torrance, 14 additional cases were reported with no new deaths. Welcome to COVID-19 Today. I'm Christine Lee. It's Wednesday, March 9th. LA County continues to see a dip in COVID-19 hospitalizations, nearing 700 for the first time since mid-December. Tuesday's figures showed 706 COVID-positive patients in county hospitals, down from 731 the day before. The number of people being treated in the intensive care units went up slightly, from 130 to 133 over the past couple of days. But the number of hospitalized patients in LA County has been declining steadily since late January, when there were more than 4,800 people in hospital beds. The drop in numbers across COVID-19 metrics led the state and the county to ease many pandemic restrictions, including the indoor masking mandate. But LA County Public Health Director Dr. Barbara Ferrer urges residents to consider wearing their masks, saying they still offer strong protection against virus transmission. 57% of Americans have never gotten the coronavirus, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and health experts say masking will help lower their risk of catching the virus. Masks are always required in higher risk settings, including healthcare facilities and transit centers. And K through 12 schools will require masks indoors through Friday, March 11th. COVID-19 may become a seasonal virus. That's what CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky anticipates as she shares her thoughts on what the future will look like. The agency moved to loosen mask restrictions for most parts of the U.S. at the end of last month. But Dr. Walensky says we may want to be more vigilant during some seasons and put our masks back on to protect ourselves from the flu, COVID-19, and all other respiratory diseases. As for boosters, the CDC director remains unclear on whether or not an additional shot will be needed over the next year. A group of experts from the World Health Organization strongly supports urgent and broad access to a booster dose, saying immunization with authorized COVID-19 vaccines provides high levels of protection against severe disease and death, especially for higher risk individuals. This advice is the opposite of what the agency's Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, said last year. He called for a moratorium on booster doses due to vaccine inequity concerns. CDC data shows about 95.3 million Americans have gotten boosted so far. Well, Pfizer continues its clinical trial of its antiviral treatment in children. The company began phase 2 and 3 of its Paxlovid trial in 6 to 17-year-olds. The study will evaluate the safety and efficacy of the treatment in children who test positive for COVID-19 and are experiencing symptoms. The participants are not hospitalized but are at risk of severe disease. Paxlovid is already authorized by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for high-risk people ages 12 and up who weigh at least 88 pounds. That decision was based on the results from clinical trials that did not include people under the age of 18. The adult trial showed that Paxlovid cut the risk of hospitalization or death by 89% if given to high-risk adults within a few days of their first symptoms. About 140 participants are enrolled in the children's version of the trial. They will be evaluated in 2 groups to determine the effects of different doses based on weight. Doctors say there is a significantly unmet need for outpatient treatments that children and teens can take to help prevent progression to severe illness, including hospitalization and death. FDA officials are working with companies to accrue pediatric data, saying physicians are eager for more treatment options. They add that getting safety data as well as information on how the drugs move through the body are important to move forward. The World Health Organization says it issued a guidance advising people on how to test themselves for COVID-19. This comes months after critics have said the lack of recommendations was compromising efforts to stop the pandemic in low-income countries. The agency's Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, says the agency was concerned that some countries are dramatically reducing their COVID-19 testing as the virus appears to recede in some parts of the world. Both cases and deaths have fallen significantly in recent weeks. He says self-testing remains a vital tool in our fight against COVID-19 and hopes the new guidelines address the inequity that currently exists. He says testing is too expensive for many countries where they are needed the most. Here in the U.S., we're lucky enough to order more free tests from the federal government. Go to covidtest.gov to place your orders for 4 additional antigen testing kits. We've shared several stories throughout the pandemic about people taking advantage of COVID-19 relief funds and using them to buy unnecessary items such as luxury bags, cars, and homes. But a Georgia man spent tens of thousands of dollars on a single Pokemon card. This 31-year-old is behind bars and sentenced to 3 years in prison after pleading guilty to 1 count of wire fraud and admitting that he spent $57,789 of relief money on a Charizard Pokemon card. Department of Justice officials say he applied for a coronavirus relief loan for an entertainment services business he claimed to own and received $85,000 from the program, which was supposed to help struggling small businesses during the pandemic. The Dublin resident claimed his non-existent business had 10 employees and was grossing about $235,000 a year. The fraudster was fined $10,000, ordered to pay restitution of $85,000, and is expected to serve 3 years of supervised release after completion of his prison term. California's food assistance program, CalFresh, is hitting a crisis point due to not having enough workers. County offices in charge of giving out monthly food benefits to low-income Californians are understaffed and overwhelmed, leading to delayed services. Officials in Marin County say their program is underfunded, which means longer staff vacancies, casework backlogs, and more families not getting the resources they need in time. The Marin County program maintains a 16 to 20% staff vacancy rate. Meanwhile, applications for CalFresh services spiked 70% between 2017 and 2021. Counties across the state had to make tough decisions to fill staffing gaps, with some closing hotlines where people can ask questions so workers can catch up on enrollment and eligibility paperwork. As of December, 4.6 million Californians, that's about 12% of the state's population, received monthly food benefits from CalFresh. Governor Gavin Newsom has acknowledged the need to increase the CalFresh funding system, but has not done so yet, blaming pandemic disruptions for the delays. Well, meanwhile, a new grant here in the South Bay is making it possible for dozens of women to explore a career in advanced manufacturing. The South Bay Workforce Investment Board received $250,000 from the James Irvine Foundation. This generous contribution makes it possible for 50 women to take part in the Women in Advanced Manufacturing Career Exploration Program, where they receive initial training and learn about local opportunities in aerospace and life science job sectors. The training equips participants through 3 tracks, helping them to develop work readiness, technical and occupational skills, as well as to get some real work experience. These pre-apprenticeships are being offered by Aeroflex and BioFlex. To learn more, go to sbwib.org. The artificial turf replacement project continues at the LA Galaxy Sports Complex. Here is a look at the work being done this week. The Torrance City Council recently awarded a contract services agreement to Sprinturf for the replacement efforts. The newly renamed sports complex is a state-of-the-art 6.2-acre facility featuring high-quality synthetic turf and energy-efficient sports lighting for year-round soccer, football, lacrosse, rugby, and other sports. It's centrally located near the Torrance Civic Center at 599 Maple Avenue. Well, every other week we share a Wellness Wednesday story to help you stay on top of this pandemic, both emotionally and physically. Did you know we are in the middle of Arbor Week? City leaders proclaim March 7th through the 14th this year as California Arbor Week in Torrance. Torrance is part of a network of more than 3,600 Tree City USAs with a combined population of 155 million. This program began in 1972 and is sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service and National Association of State Foresters. That means we have a lot of trees throughout our neighborhoods and dedicated people looking after them to make sure we can celebrate our natural wonders and most treasured resources. I recently met with our city arborist and landscape manager, Luis Ochoa. Here is his story.
Trees are important for the fact that they give us life. They provide oxygen, they provide a habitat for animals.
Meet city arborist and landscape manager Luis Ochoa.
I like that we're able to work with nature and create beauty and actually create areas that everyone could enjoy.
He and his team maintain all of the landscaping at the center medians and parkways throughout Torrance.
In our field, we plant for the future. So all the mature trees you see around the city, they were planted 20, 30 years ago for us to enjoy. So now we're doing this for future generations to enjoy.
He began his work with the city 22 years ago when his kids were just months old. He says they matured with the trees he planted, and his neighbors tell him similar stories.
Hey, this tree that you planted here, my daughter was 3, and look, she's in high school now. Look how big it is.
More than 42,000 trees scattered throughout Torrance, which is a part of Tree City USA.
That shows that we really care for the trees in Torrance and bringing the community in to celebrate during Arbor Day to beautify areas around the city.
He says he's proud to call Torrance both his home and a fulfilling place to work.
It's a great feeling to see the community come together and celebrate this. Just the beauty of trees, that's very important to have.
If you love trees and want to help Luis plant more throughout our communities, the city is hiring now. You can view available positions by going to jobs.torranceca.gov. Well, before we go, at the end of each program, we like to share feel-good stories from our community. Pictures, images, and videos that remind us of how resilient our community is and how Torrance truly cares. Luis and his streetscape team will be planting 17 trees on Saturday to celebrate California Arbor Week. From 9 a.m. to 12 noon, they will plant 11 cork oak trees, the official trees of Torrance, and 6 pink trumpet trees in the Triangle median at Border Avenue and Dominguez Street. The city workers will be joined by the North Torrance Neighborhood Association, Old Torrance Neighborhood Association, and Girl Scouts. The neighborhood associations invite community members to roll up their sleeves and come out with shovels to help our city workers with the planting efforts. What a memorable way to celebrate California Arbor Day and show how Torrance truly cares. Now, if you have a great story, an upcoming event, a photo, or video you'd like to share, email us at covid19today@torranceca.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Well, that's our update for COVID-19 Today. We'll see you back here tomorrow as Bella Shaw brings you the latest. Be safe, stay healthy, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.